Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Mike Francesa channel, on the Bet Rivers Network, on YouTube, on this Wednesday morning as we delve into the NBA playoffs. Now, listen, these playing games, like last night, although the Memphis game came down to the finish, and it was amazing if you were up watching it, which I was, that they could not inbound the ball. I mean, think about it. Think about everything you go through in a season and then not being able, down 3, 5.4 seconds left. You are still in it. You've overcome everything you had to overcome in the game, the ankle stuff with Morant and everything else. You're down 3. You don't know if Golden State's going to get a chance to foul. Now, you know, you're not going to just run an indiscriminate foul, because if you do and someone gets the shot up, you could lose the game. So you're going to get a shot here to tie the game, and they can't. They get a 5 count. I mean, inconceivable to me that how many times you go through any NBA player's playbook, you'll see BOB, SOB, plays diagrams, which is baseline out of bounds, side out of bounds. This was a side out of bounds situation. 5.4 left. They can't get the ball in bounds. They have to foul Curry. He got the ball both times when he had to get the ball. He was ridiculous down the stretch of the game. You know, Butler was unconscious doing what he did. And then late in the game, Curry goes off. And then, of course, if you foul him, you know it's automatic. And Golden State goes on to the victory. I'm not big on the playing games. I understand the premise, but the bottom line is the playoffs begin Saturday, just like those playing games in the NCAA tournament. I'm not big on them. I'm really not. You know, you might get a little drama, you might get a little action, but the bottom line is the playoffs begin Saturday, and with 4 games on Saturday, 4 games on Sunday. The Knicks, as you know, will begin Saturday night at 6 o'clock against a dangerous opponent. Okay, this is a dangerous opponent. I don't think there's any question about that. We'll get into it. We'll go into it in depth, and I want to talk about the Knicks a lot, obviously this morning, because we haven't talked about them very much. And they are a very different team, but it's an interesting matchup. It really is. And the Pistons have come out of nowhere for a lot of basketball fans who haven't thought about Detroit in so many years. It's been a long time since they've been relevant. I mean, last year, you know, they were nowhere. This year, they had one of the greatest turnarounds, I think the 5th best turnaround in NBA history. They won 30 more games than they did last year, and they have been a good team down the stretch of the season. So they have been, over the last couple of months, now the Knicks had injuries, but they have been a better team statistically the last couple of months than the Knicks have. Is that going to make a big difference? We'll see. They are a team with probably the most underrated star in the league now, a guy who has become an all-NBA type and who has given the Knicks fits all year, and has to be dealt with in the series, and we'll get to that. But they're physical. They have more depth. Their second unit is a problem. They have some size, so it's an interesting matchup. It really is. Now, here's where we are as far as the season goes, and the season has belonged, obviously, to the Thunder and the Cavs. Before the season began, to me, you know, we always do over-unders, okay? I didn't have a great year in the NFL in over-unders, but I did really well in the NBA. As a matter of fact, I was 4 for 4. But my best one was, and one that I did well on, was, as I told you before the season started, I love the Cavaliers, and they were 48.5. So it was one of the 2 biggest wages I made were the biggest coach jobs I've had in a long time in any season totals. Utah under, which never threatened, and Cleveland over, which got off to a nice start with a 15-game winning streak, and then put another 15-game winning streak before they kind of called off the dogs down the stretch, um, and the Thunder got past them. I don't think Cleveland's getting enough respect. I think they're really good. I've thought all year that it's going to be the Thunder and the Cavs in the finals. I still do. That's not a surprise. Those are the 2-1. Obviously, the 2-1 seeds. They're not the two favorites though, because the Celtics are favored over the Cavs. Here's the odds according to Bet Rivers as we begin the playoffs. Here are the odds to win the NBA championship. Oklahoma City's the favorite, plus 150. The Celtics are right behind them, plus 175. The drop off is from there to the Cavs. The Cavs are 5-1. I think it's going to be. I haven't made up my mind, but I think it's going to be OKC over Cleveland in the final. I'm going to root for Cleveland. I like their coach. I'm going to root for Cleveland, but I do think OKC is probably going to win. But it's going to be close. We'll get to that when we get to it. Let's see what it looks like. The Lakers, obviously after the Luka trade, are the fourth favorite at 12-1. So there's a drop off. So it's OKC plus 150, Boston 175, and even though they're the 2 seed, Cleveland plus 500, Lakers plus 1200, Warriors, who now have the 1-2 punch with Curry and Butler, 1800, Clippers 3000. Again, a team that I saw the Clippers. I saw them at the Garden late in the season, and they were impressive. They're a dangerous team. Then the Knicks and Clippers are both 30-1. Denver's 40-1. Minnesota, Houston, Indiana, Milwaukee. That's where and then Detroit. That's where we are right now. We still have to, have the other playing games that are coming up. The Saturday, Sunday matchups, it starts with Milwaukee and Indiana, followed by the Clippers and Nuggets, followed by the Knicks and Pistons at the Garden at 6 o'clock, followed by Minnesota at the Lakers. That's the Saturday matchups. The Sunday matchups, because these teams are obviously still playing in all the way through Friday night. So you have the winner will play against the Thunder. They'll be, enormous underdogs. That'll be early Sunday, followed by the Magic in Boston, followed by whoever survives to play the Cavs, who will be an enormous underdog, and then the Warriors taking on the Rockets. And although the Rockets are the 2 seed, remember the West was, you could basically throw a blanket over the entire West. So although you have, say, 2 seed, 3 seed, the Celtics as a 2 seed are an enormous favorite. They're an outbet in their series. The Rockets in their series as a 2 seed are an underdog because of the duo of Curry and Butler. And dealing with those guys, dealing with the tandems, okay, dealing with LeBron and Luka, dealing with Curry and Butler, when you're playing against them, you have to keep them off the foul line. They will parade to the foul line. You can't give those guys 25, 30 foul shots a night. I mean, it's crazy. You just can't do it. And that's what happens. They go out there and they have just parties on the foul line. You know, LeBron gets to the line 8, 10 times. Luka gets to the line 8, 10 times. You saw Butler get to the line in recent games time after time after time. Curry, the same thing, and he never misses. Shoots 93% or something, 92, 93, whatever it is. So these guys are going to make these free throws, and you can't give these teams all these free throws if you're going to beat them. Now, as we said, the West, Lakers won 50 games. Clippers won 50 games. Denver won 50 games. Houston won 52 games. Minnesota won 49 games. Memphis won 48 games. Golden State won 48 games. I mean, so these teams were separated by nothing other than Oklahoma City, which obviously won 68 games. It was a little more divided in the East, where you have Cleveland, which took the pedal off the metal and finished with 64. Boston with 61. The Knicks with 51. Indiana with 50. So it's a little more separated and there's more favoritism in the top bracket of the East than there is in the West, where you have live underdogs. And, the Clippers in the 4-5 matchup, the 5 is favored. The 7 is favored in the West. I mean, that's highly unusual, especially the 7 being favored. But it's that kind of year, and these teams have had such change in their rosters, and it makes a very big difference. And it makes for some very interesting basketball having these tandems that you do out west. I mean, the Clippers are a dangerous team. The Warriors are a dangerous team. The Lakers are a dangerous team. But I don't think any of them. And Denver's still a dangerous team despite everything that's going on. I don't think any of them in the West can play with the Thunder. I think I thought the Thunder is going to the finals all year. I still do. And they deserve to be the favorite. And I know people like Boston, and they want to downplay Cleveland. Do not downplay Cleveland. That is a very good basketball team, and it is superbly coached by now the most underrated. Spoelstra used to be the most underrated. He's not anymore. Now, Cleveland has the most underrated coach in the league, and he has done a brilliant job. So, obviously here, what we care about is what the Knicks are going to do. And I get the idea, not only is there worry about the matchup, but also exactly who the Knicks are. I don't get the idea that there's that much confidence in the Knicks right now. They are a very different team than they were last year. They're a different team than Tibbs likes to coach. Now, are they reliant on their starting 5, which is something that is very much a Tibbs characteristic? Yes. Does their 5-man unit log the most minutes in the league as a group? Yes. Do they log the most fourth quarter minutes in the league as a group? Yes. Is the bench strong by NBA standards? No. Do they need Robinson? Yes, in this series, and they will. Hopefully, to give them. I mean, I think Achua is going to be important too, but Robinson is going to be exceedingly important here. And I think he has to trust. He has to trust guys on the bench. I'm not for taking hard. I know there's been a lot of talk about taking hard out of the lineup, out of starting lineup, putting him with the second unit. Also talk about putting the two bigs together. The bottom line is they're going to win with their 5-man core for the most part, but they have to give some minutes to their bench, especially their bigger guys. We know McBride's going to get minutes. We know we can score. Okay, but they have to have to get meaningful minutes out of Robinson. They're going to need those fouls. They're going to need him. They're going to need him for rim protection. They're going to need him for rebounding, which are not strengths with this team. It's a different team. It's not a team that doesn't have ability. It just has to play to its strengths. That's the critical part. It has to play to its strengths. All right, let's get into it. We're going to get into all the series, give you a preview, and knock them all off, and we'll talk more about the Knicks. Brian Geltzeiler, who joins us from time to time from Sirius XM NBA. I go and do his podcast. He returns the favor. He joins us now. Brian, welcome. How are you?
I'm great, Mike. Thanks for having me, bud.
Nice to talk to you again. All right. Big picture. It's a weird year because of the couplings that went on, which now leads to strange situations. A 7 being favored over a 2 in the West. No difference really other than the Thunder with anybody else. You could throw a blanket over all the other teams. Denver with its problems. The pairings, Luka and LeBron. You saw Butler and Curry last night. It really has changed the scope of the playoffs enormously.
Huge. The trade deadline this year had more of an effect on what's going to happen in the playoffs than any trade deadline of recent memory. Listen, you're going to get that, Mike, when you get a trade of the magnitude of the Doncic trade, which is one of the most spectacular blockbuster trades in the history of the sport. Really,
One of the weirdest and hard to understand trades in history. It's almost like the league went in and said, we have to make the Lakers good again. I mean, almost that's what it looks like.
It does, but it really was a combination of a new owner and a rigid thinking executive that both convinced themselves that this player was going to be a conditioning and a lifestyle risk going forward, and we don't want to pay him $340 million for 5 years. Listen, that's the going price for a player like Luka Doncic. And
What a generation! Who gives up a generational player
you don't.
for nowhere near equal value?
You don't. You have to have, if you're going to trade that player, number one, Mike, we've seen this before. You got to do it in the offseason. You can't do it midseason. Number two, can we hold an auction, please? Can we
Yes.
find out? Can we find
No one
out
even
what
knew
other
about it.
teams?
No one even
Right.
knew this was going on.
It was absolutely insane. Here's the worst part about it, okay, for Nico Harrison. The bottom line is he and Rob Pelinka have this relationship that goes back to Kobe's days at Nike. They're very close. Nico Harrison was up front with Rob Pelinka about the issues that Luka was having. Rob Pelinka wasn't necessarily all that upfront about Anthony Davis's abductor injury, which rears its ugly head 2.5 quarters into his first game on the Mavericks. So this went as bad as it possibly could go for Nico Harrison on every front. It was an enormous risk. And listen, he figured it would backfire at some point. He didn't figure it would backfire less than a week into the trade, but there we were, here we are, and now Dallas is on the verge of being out with Kyrie out for a year and a half, and now the Lakers are all of a sudden a legit title contender. That's just how it switches.
The amazing thing that has to happen, and you saw it last night. I mean, it is inconceivable to me how Memphis can't get the ball inside out of bounds with with 5 seconds left. I mean, I can't even conceive such a thing. But forget that. Okay, we're not taking Memphis seriously anyway. But
Nope.
when you play those teams now, you cannot let those guys parade to the foul line in these playoff games. If you do, and you give Butler and Curry 28 free throws and LeBron and Luka 25, 28 free throws, you're going to lose.
Let's look at it in the Golden State lens for a minute because you saw it last night, Mike, and you're 1,000% correct there. Butler gives them that dimension. What was it, 16 free throw attempts last night for him? Something crazy like that. Okay, Butler gives them that dimension, and it's a dimension they didn't have before. And what it does for Butler, because of, and I had this conversation with a media member yesterday, Curry's gravity goes well beyond any numbers you're going to see him put up. The attention he constantly attracts every second he's on a basketball court creates space for other guys who can create shots. Butler is so good at 15 feet from in, playing through contact, playing in the mid range, getting to the basket, that this is going to be much easier for him than it ever was in Miami because defenses can't load up on him. So you're absolutely correct. And then you look at it from a Lakers standpoint, as you mentioned. This is the only time, and it was time for LeBron James to do this, but he refused to do it for Russell Westbrook. He hadn't been doing it for Anthony Davis, but he was willing to do it for Luka Doncic, which is pretty much give the ball to somebody else to run the
No
offense, play
question.
off of them, and get your opportunities to be a scorer. But more than that, Mike, economize your energy on the offensive end of the floor so you can be a better defender. It's a transition that was a long time coming. He's made it, and it makes the Lakers dangerous.
Plus, the other thing is those teams always have a grade number 1 superstar on the floor all 48 minutes. They
Yep.
got one of them on when the lull when you were Curry and you took him off the floor, they had no offense. When
Yep.
you have him on the floor, forget when you have both of them on the floor, okay? Because you got Butler playing from 12 to 15 in and Curry extending your defense 35 feet. I mean, it's a complete nightmare for a defense. But the other thing is, you can now put one on the bench and let the other one have those minutes where you still have a primo scorer on the floor.
Mike, did you see what happened late first, early second? They sat Curry earlier than they normally did last night with about 4 minutes and change left in the first. And did
Yeah.
you see how Golden State extended that lead with Curry on the bench? That wasn't happening pre-trade deadline.
No.
Curry would go to the bench and they would be in trouble.
Listen,
Not
whether you like
anymore.
Butler or not, the guy is an absolute playoff scoring machine. That's all there is to it. I don't care if you don't like him, can't stand him, whatever. That guy can score on anybody, and he doesn't care who it is. He can score on anybody, anytime, anywhere.
Mike, Stan Van Gundy said this to me a week before that trade. He said, if Golden State makes that trade, it's the perfect guy at the perfect
I
time
agree.
because Butler lasts about a year to a year and a half, and that's what it's going to be before he starts squawking about his next contract. But right now for the Warriors, that's their window. That's what they have to maximize. So he's the perfect guy coming in, and they traded one first round pick for him. It was the perfect trade at the perfect time, and what he has done. When we're talking about offense, Mike, what he's done for Green on the defensive end of the floor, he turned. I mean, listen, Draymond's had a great year. He guards five positions. He does things defensively no one else in the league does. But what
Absolutely.
Green has been since Butler has gotten there, which has allowed Green to be even more versatile than he normally is, play some center field, some no man's land, which he's really good at doing with Butler being able to guard the ball. And the beautiful part about Draymond, and we saw it at the end of the Clipper game on Sunday, is that Butler was struggling with Kawhi Leonard. What happens? They move Draymond over to him, and he does a better job. So it's not only what Butler has done for Curry, it's what he has done for Green on the defensive end of the floor.
And remember, when he went there, everyone said he and Green couldn't coexist. You see, it's not a problem because they both know what it takes to win, and they do, and they know how to do their defined roles, which makes them, I agree, exceedingly dangerous. Now, tell me this: the Clippers are pretty dangerous. I saw the Clippers at the Garden when the Knicks were hurting, and they blew the Knicks out in the second half. They got a dangerous team if Leonard's anywhere near healthy. I mean, we know that. I'm not a Harden guy, you know that, but um, that team is another dangerous team. But what is going on with Denver? They couldn't wait to make these moves. You make these moves now when you still have a team that can compete in the playoffs. What caused that to happen at that point?
Well, it's been building all season, and
Well, can't you
pretty
wait till
much
the season's over?
you would think so, but the reason they didn't is because of the confidence they had in David Adelman. Because here's what was starting to happen. Number one, Malone not playing certain guys when ownership felt like he should to spite Calvin Booth. Calvin Booth trying to turn particular players against the head coach. Okay, everybody complaining, and then Mike Malone did not help himself. You know, my partner Sam Mitchell always says this, Mike. There's only so many times you can go public and criticize your players as a head coach in this league. And Mike Malone uses it a lot. I'm a huge Michael Malone fan. You know, Mike, you and I look
He's a good
remember him
coach.
back, and he's a
Yeah,
great coach. But for
yeah,
years, this is a lifer in the game. He's a fantastic
absolutely.
coach, but
Yeah.
you can't do that in this day and age too much. Once in a while, it's a good weapon. Malone went ahead and did it too often to a point where guys got really turned off with them. And they looked at the situation and felt like it was so toxic. They were looking at a first round exit no matter who they played against. It was almost like an organizational cleanse. We're going to promote some guys that we have from within under a mandate of we all have to operate peacefully and be pulling in the same direction. You didn't have organizational decisions going on, Mike. You had coaching decisions and you had managerial decisions. There was no consistency of philosophy. And when you have that, the whole thing's going to blow up. With all that said, I'm not defending it, Mike. I don't know. Mike Malone tactically is such a good coach. I don't know how you pull him from a playoff series, essentially less than 2 years after he won you an NBA championship with the best player on the planet on his team. I don't know how you do that. I would never have done that, but the
I'm going to
dysfunction was
gather,
that
Luke.
great.
I'm going to gather that the Joker was on board, right?
The joke. So here's what I was told, Mike. They did not consult Nikola Jokic on getting rid of Malone, but they saw some body language stuff over the last couple of weeks, some eye rolls and stuff, that they didn't believe it was going to be an issue for him. Where they did consult Nikola Jokic was on the promotion of David Adelman. They wanted to make sure he was okay with the guy coming in, and he did give his rubber stamp to Adelman. They did not want blood on Jokic's hands in a Malone firing, and they had pretty much decided what they were going to do and had seen enough. And again, I will say this, as much as these guys love Michael Malone, as well as he led them, his message wore thin, and no one there was that upset to see him go.
Talking with Brian Geltzeiler from the Sirius XM NBA. A lot of the series, and we'll wait, we'll do the Knicks last, but a lot of the series, except for the walkovers, which we always have, there's a lot of series that can go either way in this first round.
Yes.
There's a lot of very contentious series. Okay, well, now Milwaukee, I don't expect Lillard to play. I don't know if he's going to play at all. I know he's not playing to start the series. Let's start there. Will you see him in this series, or is he now just gone and they got to go without him?
I would be surprised to see Damian Lillard in this
Okay.
series. And if you do get him back, Mike, I don't know that you'll have him in the condition that you need him.
Right.
Milwaukee's in trouble. They got nothing. It's
No, they're
Giannis
in
and
trouble.
nothing.
They're in trouble.
That,
They're in trouble.
getting Portis back will help, but being without Portis for 25 games wasn't great for them either. They're in
No,
trouble there.
he's
You
the
know, and
unsung hero. He's a very, very underrated player and a very
very
important
underrated player.
player. Yes,
Yes, he
very.
is. And
Yeah, he gets a double-double every night. I mean, the guy's
at
unbelievable. Yeah.
And not only that, Mike, he's a big part of their defensive versatility. You can play him at the five with Giannis at the four and have some switchability, which is harder to do with Lopez, who's exclusively a drop defense player.
So
So you
we
have
both
that.
think Indiana's going to win.
I think Indiana is going to win. I think Giannis could probably will them to two wins. Indiana is the better, deeper team. And we think about this at Indiana. They won 50 games. They started 10-15, Mike. This is a really well-coached team. This Halliburton has really, the second half of the year has been enormous. You look at his full year numbers and you don't realize how bad he was the first 25 games of the year. He has been terrific. Siakam's had a good year, but they're deep. They go to the bench. Toppin's been good for them. McConnell's an excellent player. They got Matherin coming off the bench. They roll guys at you, and I got to tell you, I think, listen, Milwaukee, they don't defend well. They don't shoot
And
it all that well. They
Indiana
got
is a
Kyle Kuzma. Ugh,
very good offensive team. Listen, Giannis
yes,
can get 45 a night and they'll still lose the series. It won't
correct.
matter. I agree with that. All right, Clippers and Nuggets. Which way do you go? Now, Clippers are favored in this series. Could go either way. I think it's a flip of a coin. I think the Nugget. I'm not a Clipper guy, so I'm going to go with the dog, not a big dog, but I'm going to go with the Nuggets over the Clippers.
I'm a big Clipper guy, and I say I'm a big Clipper guy for a couple, and I'm certainly a big Clipper guy in this matchup. Now, Denver in the last 5 years had their number, so that's worth noting in terms of you picking Denver. But I
And
will
I have
say
the
this:
best
listen,
player. And I have the best
yeah,
player.
and you have the best player. No one guards
Right.
Jokic well.
Right.
Zubac is going to give Jokic fits on the defensive end of the floor. And that's the idea, is to make him work on their end. Here's the rub with Denver, and here's where I think good defensive teams can get to Denver in the playoffs. Jokic is so dangerous as a passer. Denver is not a wonderful shooting team, but they're like any other team in the NBA. Give them open threes, and they will knock down enough of them to beat you. The thing is, if you're going to double Jokic and worry about Jokic scoring on you, keep in mind the 60-10-10 game a couple weeks ago, they lost. He can get his, and you can beat them if you shut down these other guys. He's not going to beat you scoring alone. When he starts to beat you is when you're rolling doubles at him and he's finding open shooters in spots that you can't recover to. I think the Clippers guard really smart. I think with Leonard playing at this level, and Leonard's
I
always a
think
wild
that's
card.
the
Listen,
key.
Leonard's
You know what?
yep,
He's always yeah, one day he's healthy, next day he's hurt. That's the way it always is. That's
looks great
why
right now,
I
Mike. He looks
he
really
does.
healthy right
I
now.
saw him at the Garden, he played great, okay? He looks really good. That team's dangerous. I'm not a big fan of theirs, so I'll take the Nuggets as a slight dog. They have the home court edge. I got the best player on the planet. I
You
would so I'm gonna stick with the Nuggets there. I'm not a Clipper guy, but I can see going with the Clippers, and they're favored. Lakers in Minnesota, I don't think anybody thinks that Minnesota's gonna win the series, right?
No, it's a bad matchup for
Yeah, I
Minnesota, and it's
agree. I agree.
unfortunate.
I
When
agree.
you can when you have a roster, because here's the thing about the Lakers. First of all, everybody's saying no center, no center, no center. Mike Jackson Hayes in the 20 minutes a game he's played has been good. He switches onto guys on the perimeter well. And no, he's not a wonderful rebounder, but when you have a guard like Luca who rebounds like he does, you can get away with that. The problem for Minnesota in this series is they will roll a five at you, the Lakers. Reeves, Luca, LeBron, Finney Smith, and Rui Hachimura. They're switchable. And what they can do against Minnesota is they can match Conley and Gobert off the floor. And if you can match both those guys off the floor at Minnesota, you have an advantage. Listen, what the Lakers are going to do here, this is going to be a referendum on our former Knick guy, Julius Randle, right? He's going to have to defend in space. He's going to have to guard LeBron some. He's going to have to be out on
It's
shooters,
not
out
a
on
good matchup
Hachimura.
for them. Not a
It's
good
not
matchup
a
for
good
them.
matchup. It's
I
not
agree.
a good matchup.
It
And
shouldn't be a hu
exploiting Reeves is going to be a hard thing for Minnesota to do with how well the Lakers have protected him since they got Luca. They'll put Luca on somebody with size. You may see Luca guard Julius Randle for a time just because Randle's not going to eat him with quickness. So there's a JJ Redick has done one of the great coach. He won't win coach of the year this year. He's done one of the great coaching jobs any coach has done in the league this year.
But listen, let's be honest, he look at the talent he has now. I mean, having those 2
Yes.
on the even LeBron at this stage, and we know he can't do it on both ends. We know that. But he still can give you these spurts for 20 minutes where he's, LeBron. That's better than most. And now with Luca, it's not an issue. That's a bad matchup. I think we know the Lakers are going to win that. The Sunday stuff, there's only one series to talk about. We know the Thunder's a walkover. We know the Celtics are a walkover. We know the Cavs are a walkover, and the Cavs are not getting enough credit. I am listen, I love their coach. I took them as my over this year. I made a big bet on them before the season at 48. It was the easiest bet I ever made in my life. Okay. They won 15 twice and 15 out of the gate. They took the pedal off the metal, which I wish, at the end, I wish they wouldn't have. They didn't go for it. All right. He knows what he's doing. He's a very good coach. Those three series are walkovers. Then we get to Warriors Rockets. I don't want to knock the Rockets, who have some good young talent, but the Warriors are going to win that series. You cannot have two guys as prolific as Butler and Curry against a young team. They are not going to be able to handle those guys. They're going to win. I think Rockets will have a day where a game or two where they'll win easy, but I think Warriors will win in 6 games.
I'm with you there, Mike. And I say that hesitancy because you talked about like your easiest cash being Cleveland on the over. Houston was
Yeah,
my easiest one. That over under
right.
42
That's a
and a
good
half. And I
team.
love that
That's a
team.
good
It's a
team.
great
Yep,
team. Listen, Mike, I thought they'd be a 5 seed and I thought I was reaching. They ended up as a 2 seed. And
I
that's my
know.
coach of the year, by
But
the
you
way.
can throw a blanket
He's
over it. There's 5 teams between 48 and 52 teams. There's 5 teams between those 2
right.
numbers. It's amazing how they all had the same amount of wins this year.
Yep, but it was hard to rise above that group. They were able to do it. Now they were
Right.
able to do it because again, he's got a deep team. I say he and Ime Udoka. They got a deep team. The problem there, listen, they may have the one guy that can guard Curry better than anybody in Amen Thompson. That kid's unbelievable,
Yes,
Mike,
he
in
is.
terms of everything he does without necessarily having to be a good shooter. With all that
But
said,
this is
the
their
pro
first go round now, and
it
and they're
is,
playing
and
and they're playing masters. They're playing masters of the universe in that setting. It's not going to work. They're going to get in foul
and
trouble, and they're going to always be there. Now you got Mr. Inside, Mr. Outside with Butler and Curry. You know what? It's too much. They'll win. Golden State will win that series.
Part of the problem for Houston, and sometimes we don't make things simple enough, and this may sound like an oversimplification, but Mike, when you need a big shot late in a game, the teams that are going to go the whole way know who's going to take that big shot and have confidence in it. Jimmy Butler made a
And
statement last night that I'm Robin to Steph Curry's Batman.
yeah.
That hierarchy is clear. And that's my question with Houston.
Well,
Is
Butler
Jalen Green going to
realizes I'll do it for the first 40 minutes, and then in the fourth quarter, I'll get out of the way. I'll get out of the way.
correct?
Last night he scored 15 of the last 18 points.
Right.
Curry.
Here's the problem the
Yeah,
Rockets have.
yeah,
Okay. It's
yeah.
going to be for the Rockets, it's about the matchup. So
Yep.
maybe it's Van Vliet. Maybe it's Jalen
It
Green.
doesn't
Okay.
work.
Maybe it's Şengün. It's not going to work because, and
Plus,
here's the
they're
interesting
not
thing,
ready for
Mike.
this yet. They're not ready for
Right.
this yet.
Well, that's exactly it. This is what's so fascinating about the Western Conference this year is the regular season showed you in the NBA, youth was served in the regular season. Cleveland being a younger team, being as dominant as they were. Oklahoma City being a younger team. Oklahoma City was younger than Auburn. All right. Houston being a younger team. There, the cream rise to the top there in the regular season. Playoffs are a different animal. Playoffs, you have these gut check moments where you need vets that have been there before. And listen, I worry about Houston getting out of the first round against a hardened team like Golden State, who's been there, who won a championship as recently as 3 years ago, and has Curry and Jimmy Butler. All those points you made are correct. I worry a little bit about Oklahoma City in a second round matchup against either the Clippers or the Nuggets, because again, both of those teams more experience. The experience factor is huge because you're going to have times that shots aren't falling, and who is going to
Playoffs are
go get a
about
bucket?
playoffs are about adjustments and making shots in big spots. And
Correct.
that's what these games come down to. And you have with the Lakers and even more so with Golden State, two of the great shot makers in the history of the playoffs on the same team.
Yep. You're right. It is. And listen, and not only that, they've worked seamlessly together. What's
Yes,
been
they have.
amazing about Curry and Butler is that you see it sometimes put two guys together. And you started the interview talking about couplings, Mike, right?
Yep.
Think about how well it's worked with Curry and Butler together, just got together seamless,
Yep.
like they've been playing together forever. How about how well it's worked with LeBron and Luca?
It
How they
has
look like they've been playing together
because they
forever.
both
Amazing.
because Butler, who doesn't defer to anybody, deferred to Curry, and LeBron, who doesn't defer to anybody, deferred to Luca. So you
Correct.
found places where they both would defer. And Butler
Absolutely.
last night came up the floor. That it's a 2-point game, and what did he do? He came out and he handed the ball to Curry and got out of the way.
Yep.
And
That's
that
which is
showed
what you
you
do.
that's it. And that's it. I'll get my 35, but you know what? At the end of the game, it's his shot. That's it. He's
Correct.
going to make the three. And we all know he's going to make the three. You know, man,
Yep.
the only guy in the world we know is going to make the three at the end of the game is Curry. He's always going to make it. That's just the
Always
way it is.
does.
Yes. Now,
Always does.
let's
And
get
I
to
would
before we get to other things, I want to get to the MVP with you. I want to get to the rookie of the year with you and the
okay.
NBA finals with you. But before that, let's get to the Knicks. And I want to do big picture before we get to the Pistons. And the Pistons can be a problem here. They're not a great matchup for the Knicks. And we know that Cunningham, was probably the most underrated star now in the league, gave the Knicks fits all year. Fits. Now, with that all said, do you like what the Knicks are? They don't have a bench. They can't protect the rim. They don't rebound like they used to. They don't defend like they used to, but they have advantages on the other end of the floor that they haven't had. Do you like them or do you not like them?
I like them, but I also think they're their own worst enemy. And let me explain.
Go ahead.
I think right now you have some chemistry issues on that team. I don't think it's a coincidence they haven't played well since Brunson's return. Brunson leaving allowed other guys who were a little frustrated over their shots and their role to show
OG
what they could do
Anunoby
with other shots.
especially.
Yep. But you know
Especially.
who else? Carl Towns, who was a much bigger focus earlier in the year. And as the year went on, his touches got a little bit lighter. And he certainly has played at a high level all year long. I have him as a second team All NBA player. He's been terrific. The other guy's Bridges. Bridges is the one
Bridges
guy that spoke
hasn't
out
played
against
well,
Tom.
and he hasn't played well all year. And you know what? He he's always going to subjugate his ego. That's who he is. But you know what? I think he's been way too passive. For them to be good in the playoffs, Bridges has to step up.
He does, but he wants more shots than what he's getting. And I think
And he
there's a
deserves them. He
frustration.
deserves
He
them.
does. There's a frustration. And as much as this whole Villanova reunion seems sweet on the surface, there's a little bit of a frustration with
Right, because
some
'cause it's
of
been hard
Brunson's
on
ball
heart too,
dominance.
and it's
It
been
has been
hard on
hard on
heart.
heart.
And
Yep.
and
And
and let me get to the first thing that we know the Knicks gonna play two-man game. We know the 5 starters are
yes,
gonna play more minutes than anybody else. We know that Brunson's gonna have the ball more time in his hand than any player in the playoffs. He has it more in his hand than any player in the league. We all know that, and even more in the playoffs. Here's what I wrote down as I was doing this today. Yes, that's all true. Brunson has to be more of a playmaker in this series
correct.
i- if they're going to play to optimum strength.
That's 100% correct. The problem you have, from what I've heard, is Towns, Anunoby, Bridges all feel like part of Brunson's ball dominance is related to the fact that his father is sitting on the bench next to Tom Thibodeau.
And he takes
And
bad shots.
he takes a lot of bad shots. And I
Yes.
listen, fantastic player, Mike. We're not
Yes.
bagging
And a
on Jalen
money
Brunson.
player. And a money player.
Correct. Clutch player. He has to be more unselfish.
He
He
has to
has
be
to
a better he has to be a playmaker. We know there's going to be two man. The pick and pop game is there for Towns. He's got to shoot threes. We know that, okay? But
absolutely.
also, when they run, he's got to facilitate and let Bridges and OG fill the lanes, go to the basket, get Bridges the jump shot on the wing. That stuff is there, but they're not taking it.
Also, Mike, more than that, the advantage matchups they have in this series are going to be against Hardaway and Beasley on the wings, which
Yep.
means that Anunoby and Bridges need to have the ball in their hands more. When they've played Detroit in the regular season, they've gotten punished by Beasley and Hardaway by trying to double Cade Cunningham. They have to let Cade Cunningham get his, stay at home on the shooters, and then make both Beasley and Hardaway, who couldn't guard me and you, Mike, make those guys defend in space. Okay,
Don't
that's
don't
something that doesn't happen with Brunson off the dribble.
it's hard for Tibbs to do this because this is where his defensive hat and his defensive mentality comes out. I don't want him to double Cunningham a lot.
Me
I
neither.
want him to put OG and Obi on him, who's the most fit. Bridges is a terrific defender, but he's not as strong as OG. And Cunningham's really strong. And he can muscle you in and get himself that 15-foot jumper. And also, if you double him, he's going to drop the ball to the big, or he's going to hit an open three guy like Beasley or Hardaway for an open three. That's what you don't want. That's why I don't double him a lot. I'll play him with the guy I think matches up. Now, I know Bridges is going to have to take him some minutes, okay? And I'm not against Cunningham getting his 24, 25 as long as he has to take some shots to get it, okay? This is his first playoff. Wear him down. He has to be their scorer. They don't have Knicks have 4 guys who can get 40 points. They have another guy who got 30. They have 4 guys who got 40. No team has 4 guys who has 40 points in a game this year. The Knicks have 4 different guys who had 40 points in a game. Their wings can score. They have to let their wings accentuate their matchups in this series. And I don't know if they'll do that or they'll just get too involved in the two-man game where it's all Brunson and Towns and OG and Bridges are standing around doing nothing.
100% right. That's exactly it. Here's the other thing, getting back to defensively, they also have to pre-rotate and not auto switch. The switches have to be your last line of defense. You
I
can't be,
agree.
because if Cunningham can
And
call his
don't
matchup,
double. Don't make Towns. He doesn't have to drop and double in this thing. He doesn't play him straight
doesn't
up.
have to.
Let him shoot.
Correct.
Let him shoot. If
Cor-
he hurts you with the two, you'll adjust. You're talking about him getting past his guy and then taking a 15-foot jumper. That's not the end of the world if he does that.
Correct. You need, right. And here's the thing, just a general defensive philosophy. Make Detroit play off the dribble. Don't allow the
Right.
catch and shoot stuff. And if it means Cunningham's pulling up from 18 and draining shots on you, you'll live with it. You're going to
And
have
don't
to
give
live with
Beasley a
something.
bunch of open threes. Don't
Correct.
get
The,
don't give him
y-
10
y-
open threes in the game.
You're not going to get beat if Cunningham goes 7 of 12 from 15 to 18 feet off the dribble. If he gets hot, he gets hot. If you let Beasley go 6 of 7 from 3, you're buried. That's the problem. The open threes are going to hurt him because, and that's the other thing which is going to be interesting. Beasley and Hardaway love the corner three, Mike. They're two of
Yep.
the best corner three shooters in the league. You're going to have to make sure you're staying at home on the corners. And if you're doubling off somebody to help with Cunningham, let it be the beyond the break further three. Live with
Right.
those. Don't let them shoot those corner threes. And Tom
I
is very good at that.
I'm for playing him straight up, whether he's being guarded by OG, which I think should be the primary, or Bridges. Let it play him straight up and live with it. All you're gonna do is
Yep.
get beat with a deuce. That's all he's gonna do is he's gonna break him down and take his 15-foot jumper. I can live with that. I can live with that shot. That's not gonna beat you. The problem is the open threes. Plus, the other thing is the Knicks have to watch because Detroit's a physical team. And they're going to try and get the Knicks into a physical game. And then that's not the Knicks game now to be that physical. The
No.
only thing I think Detroit's going to do bad. Here's two things that I think is going to really work against Detroit. Really, three. One is experience. Two is they're not going to have any home court advantage anywhere. Even in Detroit, it's going to be a Knick crowd. They're going to have Knick fans in the building. They don't have any fans. So there's not going to be a place where the Knicks are going to feel uncomfortable. And they're going to feel very uncomfortable in the Garden when they feel what it's like in the playoffs. And the other thing is that from a standpoint of running, Detroit has liked to run this year. I think if they run with the Knicks, they're in big trouble. I think they're in big
Yes.
trouble if they run with the Knicks.
Agree with all three of those points. Here's the other thing that I think is crucial for the Knicks. All right. They're going to probably start with Jalen Duren on Towns. But if Towns is going to camp at the 3-point line and not play at all from 15 feet and in, you're going to actually allow the Pistons to let Duren roam a little bit, let him be on Hart and let him roam and help in the paint, which is going to hurt Brunson off the dribble if Towns just camps at the 3-point line. They have to use Towns offensively on all three levels, Mike. Yes, at the 3-point line. They need to use him at the elbow, at the nail, get him the ball at the foul line where he's 1-2 dribbles into shots that he's strong at. And listen, let's throw it back and put him in the low post a little bit because if he gets a couple buckets in a low post and forces doubles, all of a sudden he's going to kick out the shooters. How they use Towns here is going to be crucial because if you allow Duren to become a roamer, all of a sudden what Brunson does off the dribble is going to be hampered a lot. Duren's really good at that. He's really athletic. That's a matchup for the Knicks that they have to hammer. They have the advantage in that matchup, and that's where they can beat Detroit because Duren is a guy that Duren's an excellent player, and most nights he has an advantage matchup for Detroit because of how big, strong, and athletic he is. Karl Towns is one of the few guys at that position with enough craft and enough ability to make Duren really struggle on the defensive end of the floor. The Knicks have to exploit that more than worried about exploiting Brunson, who, by the way, may get a Sar Thompson on him, who's not quite as good as his brother defensively, but he's pretty damn close. So the Knicks, back to your initial point, Brunson and playmaking. The Knicks have
Absolutely.
matchup advantages
See,
all over the
Brunson's going
floor
to.
that don't lie in Brunson.
Yeah, listen, Brunson, we know Brunson and Towns are going to get their shots. I'm not worried about that because they're going to primarily play out of that two-man game. We know that. What I want him to do is, especially on the break and in transition, I want him to be a playmaker. And I think it's very important in recent weeks. OG's been much more aggressive
Yes.
getting his shot than Bridges has been. Bridges has floated where sometimes he's invisible. They need to make sure he is being utilized properly, and he has to make sure he's in the offense. I think sometimes he just gets lost and says, "Ah, the heck with it." You know what? I don't want to see that. I want to see him be a primary offensive player because otherwise you're not taking advantage of who they are. The Pistons are going to get points in the paint against the Knicks. The Knicks aren't strong at stopping teams from getting in the paint. They're going to get in the paint. They're going to score. Let them get their twos in the paint. I just don't want them to get open threes all night.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And again, exploit him on the other end of the floor. Now, one of
All
the
right, how
things that
many
OG
games?
Anunoby,
How many games?
uh, 6. I think the Knicks are better. And I think,
How
Mike,
about
when you
this?
get a long series, Kramer rises to the top will be 2-2. Knicks take the last two.
I keep seeing Knicks are in trouble. Pistons can win. Knicks in 7. I think Knicks win in 5, and I'll tell you why. I don't think Detroit has anything that even resembles a home court advantage. I think the Knicks will be not only comfortable, I think they'll have the building in Detroit. I think there'll be more Knick fans than there will be Piston fans. So I don't
You
even
saw
think they're gonna
they're not selling out of state tickets,
they're
Mike. They're not
trying to
that they're
keep
trying
them,
to
but,
do that.
Knick fans,
Yeah,
there's when they wanna get to a building, they do it, and you know
to
what?
get there.
That's the problem. When you have a team that hasn't been in the playoffs in 1,000 years, they don't have fans. They don't have a fan base. The Knick fans want those tickets more than the Piston fans do. That's just the way it is, and I think that will help them, that all of a sudden, they get home down 2-0, you know, Knicks aren't gonna be uncomfortable in their building. I think the Knicks
Not
win
at
in
all.
5. I think they win in 5, uh, and I'd be shocked if it's more than that, although I understand how good the Pistons have been, and I know that Cunningham has been great against the Knicks. I think it'll be different in the playoffs. Just don't double team him and let him get everybody open shots. They don't have a number 2 scorer, that team. That's a big problem in the playoffs. They
Yep.
have no number 2 scorer. They have no
No.
bona fide number 2 scorer. All right, real quick, time-wise, MVP, 2 guys, which one is it?
I went with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and
I
I had a very
agree.
hard time
Okay, I
doing it,
thought you
but
were
I
gonna
did.
go for the big man. Okay, I agree with that. Okay. Rookie of the year, 2 guys, which one?
Reese Shea. I
I
just
go with
played more
Castle.
meaningful games.
I like Castle. They asked
Castle's
Castle to do a
a
lot.
very good
I
young player. They did.
yeah.
I just felt like Reese Shea had some more success, played in some more meaningful games. The numbers are similar. What tilted me was Reese Shea shot 36.5% from three. Castle was only 28. But they
All
did
right,
give Castle a lot of responsibility. He was in second for me.
I'm Thunder Cavs in the finals. Cavs aren't getting enough respect. Everyone thinks the Celtics are better. Some people think the Knicks are better. I think the Cavs are really good. I'm not saying that they're going to beat the Thunder. I'll talk about that when I get there. I'm going Thunder Cavs final. What do you have?
Celtics Lakers. I actually
Celtics
think the Lakers can do it.
Lakers.
Celtics Lakers. That's what I'm going with. I love the
That's
Lakers here.
where
I really
that's
do.
where the old legs will have a problem when they play against the Thunder. That's not a good matchup for the Lakers, I don't think. Not a good
No, they
matchup.
did beat them last week, and they hung close the week before. It's. Listen, there's not a lot of bad matchups for the Thunder. I think that one's a little bit tough just because of the Lakers' size on the perimeter, and the Thunder are going to have again. As I said it with Minnesota. Minnesota, if you can match Gobert and Conley off the floor, and the Lakers can do that, it gives them a problem. It's a similar situation with OKC. OKC's at their best with Holmgren and Hartenstein on the floor together. But if you have to match one of them off, and I think they may be forced to do that. And again, as deep as the Thunder are, and they bring a lot of interchangeable parts at you between Case and Wallace and Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe. I'd rather get one of those Caruso. I'd rather get one of those guys on the floor for a size advantage on the perimeter for the Lakers than having a Hartenstein or a Holmgren. Listen, I love OKC. They had as good a defensive year as I can remember a team having in recent NBA memory. They're an incredible defensive team. I feel like there's something special about this Laker team. I really do. It's unique, it's different, and
It
there's
is.
been a whole lot of sacrifice, and they've rallied around Luca, Mike. It's Luca is was in a bad place emotionally, and this group has brought him to a good place emotionally. There's been a real bonding of that group. I don't know. I just think there's something special there.
We're gonna see what happens. All right, Brian Geltzeiler, you can see him on. Hey, listen to him on Sirius. He's also on NBA TV at times. Sirius XM NBA. Thanks very much. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, Mike.
And for
Thanks, buddy.
everybody else,
Appreciate you.
remember Bet Rivers for the playoffs. You got all the games coming up. Knicks is Saturday. We'll post a same game parlay we do for every game for the Knicks games for the playoffs. We'll do that too. I'm going Thunder. Cavs. Listen, I've been on the Cavs all year, so I'm not getting off. Thunder and Cavs in the finals for me. And I think the Knicks win their series in 5. I'm not saying the games won't be tough. I'm not saying they won't be physical. I just want to see them make sure they get OG and especially Bridges in the mix offensively. And that's up to Brunson to do that. I think the Knicks win in 5, though. I don't think the Pistons are ready to really drive the Knicks crazy. If the Knicks lost in the first round, it would be devastating, but I don't think that'll happen. I really don't. We'll talk to you soon.